Hello and welcome to Ignore All Previous Instructions. I'm Pam and I'm on with Sarah Withy, Sarah, the cat lady this recording.
Yeah, I figured I would just rename myself in the recording software every day with a different fun name.
Yeah. And maybe like one of these times now that you're co-host, maybe we should make you do the intro. But
Oh,
yeah, so
yeah, I could add
ponder that.
explosions, air horns,
Yeah, I wonder if I
Sunday,
can give
Sunday,
you a
Sunday, womp, 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 womp.
a login to the yeah, I wonder if I can give you this power and like probably give you like a soundboard to play with in the recording software. That's a just one episode, just us going off unhinged on the
Each of
soundboard.
us gets a soundboard and we don't tell each other what the effects are, and we just like
Ooh,
go to town.
just go
Actually, it'd be fun to give
nuts.
each other the effects, and the
Mm,
other one doesn't know what they
discover.
are. Yeah,
Yeah. Mm, that'd be a fun little, like a little thing that definitely already exists on the internet, but like a fun little side project. Just like make a little soundboard, and I'll be like, "All right, go to this website, Sarah. It's your soundboard. You're not allowed to look at the source, or like all the
yeah.
sound names are just obfuscated or something."
If we did that, it would almost be like ignoring all previous episodes and doing something
Mm.
else,
Ignoring
right?
all previous
Right?
episodes.
Yeah.
Well, we are ignoring all previous episodes. We're gonna try something new this episode where Sarah has gone into a research cave about I don't know what, although I did get a hint of maybe what it might be. But also, you could have been lying, so I don't know. But
I was lying.
so it's not blowing up computers. It's something that
Something
I'm gonna
else.
find out. Hope
Uh,
assumedly imminently.
yeah. Let's talk about the intersection of technology and nostalgia. Do you remember your first computer?
Nostalgia. I do. I do remember my
What
first
was it?
computer. I don't remember what it was, but I remember things about it, is that it was in my parents' basement, and it was I guess it was my home. I guess my parents allowed me to live there. And so I was like, "That was a weird way to word it." But it's my dad had a computer because he had a small business, and so he had a computer to be able to do accounting and stuff like that for the business, and so
Was it
it
like
was
a
in the
PC
basement.
or a Mac or something?
I mean, I
Or
think it was
older?
probably actually, I don't know because this was a time where people might have had Macs, right? It wasn't like just
Oh,
software engineers with MacBooks, it was like sometimes it was a
yeah.
Mac.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a PC because I think he had Windows software
Mm,
because of the whole business accounting thing,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
then, my interaction with it is, of course, AOL online
Oh, of
and
course.
going to the basement to get on the internet and the of
And the
the
cat noises.
dial-up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the cat noises of the dial-up modem. And so I remember it being, I guess, CRT is like the fat
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
monitor
Uh,
and
the tube
the
TVs.
the stuff was always very dirty because it lived in a basement. So it was like
Yeah. Yeah.
it probably was maybe white or gray at some point, and it is just a strange yellow.
Yeah, they do tend to beige over time for some reason.
Mhm. Trend to
Although
beige.
some of them did come to beige, like they came beige was the
Maybe it
popular color at the time
oh, maybe it
too.
was, but it just seemed
I don't know.
gross. Yeah.
But yeah, they did kind of get grosser over time. Do you remember your first video game console?
I think it was an N64.
N64? Oh, that's good. That's good.
Mhm.
Was there any other like old piece of technology you remember as a kid that you really liked, like a music device or anything like that?
I was thinking answering machine is a
Oh,
piece of technology that came to mind is going upstairs to check the answering machine, and it was
mm,
a physical thing that you hit play on, and
yes,
then
yes.
you'd go through the messages of the answering machine and write things down for
A
someone
machine
else.
that answered the phone for you, yes.
It did,
Hmm,
yeah.
and was kind
Mhm.
enough to take messages for you.
Yeah.
Was it on the little, like, tiny, like, inch and a half long tape?
No, no, it didn't have
Oh,
tape. It was I remember that you had to hit buttons on it. So
eh,
it had,
eh,
like, a speaker, and then you'd use arrows to go through the messages.
Interesting. How did you feel whenever you used that computer or the N64 or played with the answering machine?
It was I feel like it was generally positive because I was playing on the computer or I was playing games on the N64. And so it was always like a playtime activity. So it wasn't, it wasn't until you got older that they found, ways to make you, it was like kind of right around when I was in high school was like DSL and the,
Oh,
internet.
yeah.
And so you could use the internet for research more freely and the expectation of word processing. So
Yeah.
expecting things to be typed, and so typing things for your assignments versus handwriting them.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk about like the fun evolution of technology and the nostalgia of some of it and kind of where that puts us today. How's that sound for a
Interesting.
topic?
I like it. I wonder, did you do any research into I think about nostalgia, and I feel like I've read a little bit about it as it has a particular it's a flavor of memory, and
Hmm,
memory as a kind of psychological, like a psycho-emotional construct, like what is memory, not. Because I realized we were talking about computers, so we could talk about memory as and, it's
the
a
circuit chips that
collection.
remember things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a collection of a whole bunch of zeros and ones that when you put them all together, turn into an emoji or,
Exactly. Yeah.
or a MP3 file or a GIF or an entry in a database itself,
Mhm.
like composed of all these things. Well, I guess, yeah. It's like, some of that's not memory. But yeah, so nostalgia as it's a flavor of memory that has feelings with it too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like so when
Generally, like
you're
positive feelings, I feel like. You don't usually have
yeah,
nostalgia for like bad things. That's just
yeah.
bad memories.
Trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Remember that time when the car exploded?
when we
Or,
got in
yeah.
a car accident, yeah, car accident
Yeah.
or something
That's not usually
bad.
nostalgia. Uh,
Yeah. And so
yeah.
what's your early computer memories?
Uh, yeah, that was kind of interesting. I feel like my first computer was like a true retro computer. It was a Commodore 64. My parents had one and I learned to program on it actually. But it was introduced to me and my sister when we were little because you had to like put a disk in the drive, flip the lid down so it like held onto the disk, and then you had to type in a command to actually like load the game off the disk. And
Mm.
I learned, like, you could type other things and eventually, like, build together programs and make it do fun things. Like, "This is cool. I can make the machine do whatever I want." Um,
Yeah, I feel like Commodore 64 is a pretty from a certain era, a pretty common
yeah,
computer origin
like the
story.
early to mid '80s, which probably dates me, but, I usually have to tell people it's about equivalent to a original Nintendo. So,
Mm,
definitely, like, only 16 colors, 64 kilobytes of memory, um, and then, it had BASIC on it, but you're extremely limited on, like, what you could do with it. I think it had, like, 3 sound things you could do at the same time, so, like, 3 different instruments, if you will, you could, like, make sounds of, and I don't know, but it was still a lot of fun, it was kinda cool to see, like, how they made games with it and things like that, um but it's kind of interesting because the Commodore still holds this, like, interesting spot in my heart, like, it's
mm.
still like, whenever I see one, I just get, like, really happy and like, "Wow, you have a Commodore," or, you
Have
know,
you ever have you ever gotten to go to a computer history museum of
I
any
have
kind?
not. I've wanted to, but I've never ended up doing that, but, um
I think you'd definitely enjoy it,
oh,
and
yeah. Oh, yeah.
there's
I know
probably
I would.
some opportunities to go to see stuff in Pittsburgh. Like, in Philadelphia, you can go see the ENIAC if you know someone at
Oh,
Penn.
interesting.
At least maybe you can do it without knowing someone at Penn, but it was really easy knowing someone at UPenn and saying, like, "Hey, can you use your badge to let me in the building and I'll go look at this computer?" And it's just like in a
Yeah.
building and people are, just doing regular building things and then there's, just like the ENIAC and a sign that's like, "This is the ENIAC. It's
Yep.
famous and
Just a
stuff."
giant wall-sized computer on the other side of the
Yeah,
room.
that's for
Yeah.
us.
Mhm.
But when I was in university, one of my professors had a not a Commodore, it was one of those computers that you had to have a tabular sheet to program
Mm,
it.
yeah.
The kind of thing where you'd program the sheet and then you would feed it like, I guess you'd, like, work on your
Mhm.
program all day and then you'd turn them in at night and someone would run the program overnight, some minion,
Mhm.
and then in the morning you'd get it back with your errors and then you'd do it again. Um,
Or
oh,
if you manage to not
PDP-11,
pull off
that's what it
EDA
was,
errors,
which
you'd, like,
I think
get the
that's
results
that
back.
might characterize the
Yeah.
PDP-11, and I could be wrong, but I know it
No,
definitely
that's
had those paper things
it did.
because the professor had a PDP-11 and had a bunch of boxes of PP11 paper, and since they don't make it anymore, the Computer History Museum, or one of them, I think the one in the Valley, reached out and said, like, "Hey, you're one of, like, the 3 people in the country that have this computer. Do you have any extra paper?" Because they were running out of paper, and
Okay.
they wanted to, like, they used it in demos and stuff like that, and so he sent them, like, a couple boxes of paper, and that was
It's
kinda
wild
cool.
somebody
It was
hangs on
like,
to that special paper for so long.
yeah, the
I don't know,
things.
it's kind of interesting because you can still get, like, paper with the tractor strips on the side with the holes that you rip
Mhm.
off. It's pretty rare, like, you have to, like, look really hard for it, but some people still have, like,
Oh,
really old
tractor
paper
paper.
that yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's only that function of the paper is useful for a certain kind of printer, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Also, I was thinking about, like, game consoles, and, like, my parents always said, like, "We have a computer, we don't need a video game system," but, all my friends had NESs and later SNESs, and I always, like, wanted one. I'd, like, go over to their house and play them, and I'm like, "I really want one," but my parents wouldn't let me have one. Finally, I think when the N64 came out, I convinced them to let me buy an SNES, and so I had, like, one old system, and then a friend of mine let me borrow their N64, so
So wait, was your family anti-video game system, or
I think yeah, kind of, because they thought like, "Well, a computer can play games, so why do we need a video game
why do we need
system?"
this
And I'm like,
extra
"But they're
thing
different
that
games. I like the
mm,
games on the video game
mhm.
systems." But, you know, I don't know. I eventually grew up and started buying my own consoles and just like, "You know what? This is fine."
It sounded like that was and then you could buy your own things.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, I do think it's 'cause I don't really I I play New York Times puzzle games with my girlfriend on her phone. That's, like, the amount of game since I have to limit my screen time physically, I
Mm.
can't really opt into playing video games as
Yeah, that
a
makes sense.
fun activity, and, like, they're fun. I think they're really neat, but, just not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, yeah. But there was, a video I saw, like, a few months ago, and just kinda accidentally stumbled across it, but it was probably this, like, young 20-something woman, and she just had a YouTube series, and she just loved, like, old technology, and, like, on the shelf behind her, you could just see, like, an Atari and a Commodore 64 and just all this stuff, and it was kind of interesting to see her talk about this technology that she loved, like, discovering and seeing what all it could do in sort of, like, a different way than I saw it, which is kind of like
Mm,
that was what I grew up on, that was how I learned to do software engineering now. Um,
mhm.
but it was kind of cool to also just see, like, her rediscover things and just kind of, like, the coolness of, like, how people did things years ago, and I don't know, it was fun. So that was, like, partly the inspiration for, like, some of this. Um,
Yeah,
Especially,
it's
like, the technology without the internet is just, like, different?
yeah, can you think of is there a technology from before your time that you feel some sort of nostalgia for?
From before my time?
Right. Like, kinda like this person that you're talking about. Like, is there anything that's in that category
Mm.
for you?
I mean, besides the Commodore and, like, old video game systems, I guess. I don't know. Like, I got a old PC eventually in, like, middle school, um, maybe high school, I don't remember off the top of my head, but, um, so, like, there's certain funness of just, like, the old PCs and kinda some games I remember from back then, and, of course, like, your classic Doom and stuff back when those
The
were,
"Can you
like,
run
top
Doom
of the
on it?"
line
Right.
games at the time,
Mhm.
um, when 3D games were first getting invented, and yeah, that was kinda but also, like, the internet did change things. I remember I think it was about I don't remember when I first, like, got on the internet, but it was about 1997, I think, like, middle school when I
Mhm.
was,
Right. That's about
learned how to make a web page
AOL,
for
was
the first
there?
time in,
Mhm.
like, raw HTML and stuff like that, which was really fun. But also just kinda like the old internet of just people trying really weird things and GeoCities where people could just claim a website and do whatever they wanna do with it. And,
Mhm.
um, the excitement of just kinda, like, seeing those really random things and, also, like, Neopets,
I love
probably,
Neopets.
like, one of the most popular, like, games of the, what,
I
late
was a Neopets
'90s, I guess.
millionaire. Name of my memoir. I
Mhm.
was a Neopets millionaire.
I was rich back on Neopets.
I was rich
Ah,
on
yes.
Neopets. If only, rich being rich was,
Um,
you go to the giant omelet and then you
mhm.
get some objects and then you put them up in your shop and
Maybe for the people that haven't played Neopets, what was Neopets, Pam?
it was you'd it was like an online world for kids, and you could have a Neopet was like your pet, and you could have a few of them, but you have like, like a pet cartoon dragon or a pet, cat or a pet whatever, and they're digital pets. And you can, I guess, buy things for them and stuff like that using, Neopets money. And you would get this Neopets money by playing Flash games. So Flash, and then when
The animation program
the
of
big,
the '90s
yeah,
and
it's a big
2000s.
deal. Um, Playing flash games, or you could, become an entrepreneur and open a shop, and you could, like, go and buy things in shops, and there'd be, like, very rare items, and there were quests and things that you could get into. So it's just, like, all kind of like a very big world with a whole bunch of different things that depending on what you were into, you could get into it and be like, "I'm here because I want a cute pet, and that's it. I'm here because I just like playing games or whatever, and that's cool." So
Well, it's also kind of fun
it's
because it was,
different
like,
speeds.
one of the few games I remember that actually had some interaction with, like, other people. Like, you could open a store and other people could buy the things, and you could, like, make friends and swap things with them and stuff too,
Did you
right?
I only interacted on Neopets with people I already knew. Did you ever did you make internet friends on Neopets?
Many, I don't think, but I wasn't, like, nearly as hardcore, I think, as, like, some people I knew who did actually make friends online through
I feel
that.
like it was more LiveJournal was, you'd make or not,
It
I guess
was
it's not that's pre well, it's not pre, but, like, I guess in social media now, we talk about parasocial relationships.
mhm.
Like, I have an app that if they sponsor the podcast, I could name it, but I have, like, workout trainer situation, and so this person, is like a actual person in real life who makes videos and is like, "Here's your plan for the week," and it's just that they do this for, 20,000 people. And so, it feels like I have a relationship with my coach or, or like whatever, whoever is in this group feels like they have that relationship, but it's parasocial because it's, like they don't know me. Like
There's no real
there's no
relationship there.
actual
Yeah.
relationship. So parasocial. And but I feel like, in the naivete of early internet or, perhaps not naivete of probably things that people definitely told us not to do and that we did anyway, of, talking to strangers on the internet and being like, "Oh, neat." you know,
Mhm.
how's your school? Like, oh, wow, you know, I also hate Catcher in the Rye. Like, uh, what shall we relate on?
Yeah.
So I'd say, I guess, so nostalgia for things from before my time, as it were. I think I have found. I don't know if it'd be nostalgia. I almost want us to like look up the like kind of the psych definition of nostalgia, but like I think about like stuff that's older is like, oh, the thing that I first thought of is the Minitel is a piece
Hmm,
of cool technology.
interesting.
So it's like the bit of technology that I was told in like my French classes, so take it up with my high school French teachers, but that it's like the technology that kind of slowed France's adoption of the internet because it was
Hmm,
good enough. And it was this sort of integrated phone and information system for your house. And so if you needed, something, you could go ask the Minitel. Like, I guess for the United States, it'd be the equivalent of dialing information, but never dialed information. I knew it existed, but I was like,
yeah.
I don't need that. But
Well, it costs
Minitel,
money, and my parents wouldn't have
yeah.
approved of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
it's like money, we don't do
Look it up in the phone book,
that.
Sarah. My gosh.
Yeah, it's like, what do you want? They drop the phone book on your soup for free. So,
Exactly.
um, but, yeah, so the Minitel, I think, is a really interesting piece of technology to look up. And then I also thought of when I thought Minitel, then that led me to think about other communication, old communication, and I thought about, like, Morse code systems, like,
Hmm,
Morse machines or telegraph machines, and that it was cool because it was a means of communication, and because I like languages, it's also, you have to, have some fluency in
yeah,
another code to be able to do it, to be able to understand it and to send messages, efficiently.
yeah.
And so it had this cool factor to it. And
Well, it's also kind of interesting because ham radio licenses, some of them still well, not anymore, I guess, but for a while, I mean, even up into, like, the 2000s, they still required you to, like, pass some Morse code test because some ham
oh, that's
radio
kind of
people,
cool.
like, you could s like, there's still people that use it. You can, like, go to different frequencies and still hear it being used.
Mm.
Like,
Oh,
I
that's
don't know
fun.
it. I never got that high of a ham radio license, but, I think they finally, like, eliminated it. It's just kinda like, "Yeah, it's going out the wayside. We don't you don't
So they're like,
need
you
to know
don't
it for a
need it
radio
to get your
license." Yeah,
license. Yeah.
yeah. Like, if you wanna use it, you can learn it, but, like, yeah. I was also kind of thinking about sort of culture impact, and one of the interesting things, uh, is, like, an example, the Super Mario movie that came out, what, last year or the year before?
I
Um,
that movie sidebar is that I think that was a fun movie. I
it was
enjoyed
a
it.
fun
I
movie.
thought it was a good time.
But,
Hot
on a
takes.
surface level, like, it's a normal movie. There's characters, there's stories, there's a plot. But if you, like, truly watch it, it is constantly filled with Easter eggs of just,
Of
like,
nostalgia.
gobs and gobs and
Right.
gobs of old
They're
Nintendo
like on the
references,
Rainbow
and
Road or whatever.
mhm,
That was probably one of the more obvious
and,
ones,
like
but
the more games you knew, you could see references to, like, Donkey Kong games and other stuff too, and, I think that's kind of like a fun twist on something that's modern, and you don't actually have to have nostalgia for it, but it generated it for the people that knew,
mhm.
which I thought was kind of interesting. And then another example is I was at a Walmart the other day, and as I was walking through the store past the electronics section, and there's a Taylor Swift record. And I'm like, it's kind of interesting to me that records are totally coming back in style.
Oh, vinyl, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
vinyl
yeah, no,
records.
vinyl is really and hard media is
Mhm,
getting a bit of a resurgence of sorts. I
yeah,
think I would be in favor. I think that's pretty cool if
yeah.
hard
I mean,
media.
like there's a certain coolness to it's an analog signal put onto a record, whereas like a CD or DVD or whatever, it's a digital signal put onto a disc, and
Mhm.
so it has a slightly different sound to it, but
Yeah. In the how is pretty neat.
mhm, yeah. But I don't know, it's just kind of interesting that even, like, some technologies can kind of, like, circle back a little bit.
Mm.
Um, and especially like streaming now, you can get most nearly anything you can think of, like on some sort of streaming service, either for music or for video, movies, TV. But, some people are still kind of like, I don't want to pay for that. I just kind of want to have my movie, or I'm tired of it
I
leaving
think there's
Amazon and going to Netflix, or leaving Netflix and going to
well
Hulu, or leaving
and
Hulu and
there's
going to
also the case for physical media is that if you're streaming, you may get something different than, a different time that you stream. Like, the
Mhm.
content can change at any time.
Yeah.
So, the case for for physical media is that then you know what you have, and,
Mhm.
like, no one, like, snuck into your house and removed, a few minutes of
Yeah.
the movie because they needed to censor it or something.
Yeah. I've been rewatching Mythbusters, which has been kind of fun, but there's just a few episodes that are missing, and I'm like, "Where are the episodes?"
Oh,
Where did
did
they
you look
go?
into this?
Not too hard, um, because, like, Discovery owned them for a while, and then the Science Channel got them and was doing reruns for a while, and then, I don't know, something licensing, but now, like, HBO has all the Discovery stuff on there, which is where I'd been watching them, but they don't have all the episodes. And I'm like, yeah, but they have all the Discovery stuff, and Discovery owns all the episodes. So why wouldn't they? I don't know. That is kind of like
I
one of
wish
those
you
good
had looked into
examples of,
this. Yeah.
um, things like that. One of the other things I was thinking is, do you remember Ready Player One? Did you ever watch that movie?
I did not.
Okay. It was also just kind of filled with like
I think I
nostalgia of
heard
the 80s things.
yeah, I heard it was great for boys. I was like
It
that it
was
was, like, a
okay.
particular nostalgia.
Yeah. I'm just like, it was fine. I was curious to see it, so I went and watched it. Like, that was good.
Mhm.
But yeah. And then what else? Oh yeah. Pixel art video games. Pixel art wasn't a thing. It was just like how computers were, because the graphics resolution was so slim you couldn't make
Oh,
like
so
such
you're talking about when
fluid
people make
things.
pixel
But
art things
but now,
contemporarily.
yeah, now it's like
I do
specifically an
enjoy
art
pixel
form.
art. I think it's
Yeah.
really fun. Yeah. There was this great I did used to play, like, old, like, iPhone video games, and there was Hipster City Cycle was an indie video game where you got more points if you, didn't put your foot down, and, you were always, like, weaving through the streets of Philadelphia, and the pixel art was really good, and no idea. I
Nice.
hope that's Internet Archive somewhere, and I think that's so as much as you're saying, like, "Oh, these, technologies circle back," there's just so many that don't, and that
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
and
definitely.
then that generates, like, the archival question drop something, and it generates the archival question of if you don't have the systems that things played on, how do you emulate them and
Mhm.
preserve, things for archive when we've expanded, like, so much beyond, written
Mhm.
communication in terms of archive, and expanded so much into data and games and,
Yeah.
music of different formats. And so the archival question, the Internet Archive, like, I think Jason something is the guy who usually gives talks on this, and I've seen his talks at, like, the HOPE conference, the Hackers on Planet Earth conference, so there's some videos. I think his handle is Text Files, and so talking about all these different formats and, you know,
Mhm.
building systems to be able to continue to preserve them.
Yeah, and I've definitely, like, gone on there and just like, "Whoa, hey, they have games on there and they have different software products, and you can just play them with an emulator on the website." I'm like, "That's
Uh-huh.
wild that we've come
Yeah,
that far that a website can now just emulate an entire game system or a computer system
right, and
from
you talk
back
about
then."
nostalgia for when the internet was shiny and it was, we've got JavaScript now. Wow.
Yeah.
A web page can be interactive.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Um, and then, of course, one of those popular games right now, Minecraft, is totally just like a world based on blocky things, which used to be
Yeah,
just
somewhat
kind of how
pixel
you
art.
made games. Was like you just design little block shaped sprites and build out entire levels full of them. And now that's just kind of what Minecraft is just like uh, old school design in a very modern video game, which is also,
Yeah,
I don't know,
which I wonder how much of that, nostalgia is maybe on the creator side, but then on the marketing side of parents feel more likely to let their kids play a game that feels old.
maybe that's a good question. Somebody should research that.
Somebody
You
could have been
you out
us.
there in the audience,
We
get back to
didn't.
us when somebody's researched this and let us know. Let us know. Um, do you remember thinking about, like, the future of what technology was going to be? Like, virtual reality and,
Oh,
um,
yeah,
things like that.
and
Everybody would be wearing giant goggles, and we would be,
I know,
um
and nowadays, now it feels it totally has a, like, trying to make fetch happen energy.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
it's like,
yep,
wow, you're really did you see Meta released their Meta Ray-Bans, and
yeah.
they had this horrifically botched demo. Is horrifically is actually quite strong. I said maybe roll it back a little, but they were like it's just like that they set themselves up for failure because they said, "Oh, we're gonna do a live demo," and then the live demo just totally bombed and just didn't work.
I didn't end
Um,
up seeing that, but
it was supposed to be it was like, "Oh, live AI." It has big,
of course.
yeah, so it's like, "Oh, I'm in the kitchen and I'm gonna ask, in real time, ask the AI questions," and the AI just doesn't the LLM that they're using just does not, respond appropriately, and the
Mhm.
demo guy that they had on the other side of it, I think I would probably blame him a little in terms of not being able to make a failed demo look like it was fine, and, perhaps some practice could have been helped. But,
Yeah,
um, who knows? I'm sure they've had a really rough week, after that,
yeah.
the people who were staging that. But, yeah, so nostalgia, yeah, being the other side. I know we talked I think we've talked before about futures and things like that. And is that the futures got twisted. It's like it became more the torment nexus. So
Yeah,
the classic torment
um
nexus meme.
I mean, I just still also remember movies from, like, the '90s and 2000s and just, like, "When the world turns entirely virtual," and it's like,
Oh,
"Really?"
yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, "Yeah,
There's a movie that I can't remember the name of. We really could do more research for this podcast, but, uh, it was something where,
I
like,
did some
people
research for the."
we it was something where people, they like, the real world still exists, but people would choose to, like, put their bodies into pods and,
Oh,
navigate through
yeah.
just the virtual world instead of the physical world. That I feel like I think it's, like, unfortunately, a lot of these future things are very dystopian, that they're like, "And then everything's
Yeah,
terrible." And
yeah.
it's like, "Ooh."
After we've blown up the world, we're all living in pods because the surface is no longer safe.
Yeah, after we've exhausted all the limited resources that are available.
Mhm, mhm. The Matrix, basically. Which is almost the opposite, people not choosing to be in pods or in pods so that way the computers can keep a virtual reality thing going
Yeah, let's
for
see.
people. Yeah, it's
It was
now to think about it's like the exact opposite of
I'm trying to remember the Matrix thing was that they simplified the plot, right? They made it that people are batteries when really it was people are
Mhm,
a distributed computer, was the
yeah,
original theory, apparently.
yeah. Huh, interesting. Uh, yeah, so the future. I also think about the future of, like, Star Trekian or, like, "Computer, make
Mm.
me a cup of tea," and it would just, like, pop out of the machine, and you could drink it, and, our AI now doesn't do anything like that. Just, "Make me a cup of tea." "Alright, here's what you would do to make your own tea." And
Yes, so here's well,
and
first
pour
you
pour
should
a cup of
source some.
water, add a tea bag, leave it in there for 2.5 minutes or whatever, and
It's a long brew, Sarah.
I don't know, a minute and a half, I just made it up, Pam. That's what the apps are for. The apps tell you how long to brew
How
your
long to
tea.
brew the tea?
Um, I feel like 2 minutes isn't unheard of. Anyway, and
It
then
depends on the tea, like you said. You're right.
some of the other things I was thinking about, along similar lines is, there's also still a little bit of a DIY culture around things, like, there's definitely people still trying to, like, maintain their old devices and their old Game Boys or their old computer systems or whatever. But there's also like companies like Analog, I think are fascinating in that they've been building game consoles that work with modern chips on modern like TVs and stuff, but play old cartridges and stuff. It's like they had one that was like
Oh,
you'd put a Nintendo cartridge in the front, but it would work over HDMI and it used FPG
FG.
um
Yeah.
to do all the graphics and everything, and, it just programmed those chips to be able to read the cartridges, and it just played, like, as if it was an actual Nintendo, including all the, like, faults of the chips and the games and everything. It was just, like, really interesting to see, like, they just keep making new ones, and they made one based on, like, the Sega Genesis and one based on the N64, and, they seem to be still making these. I think they made a Game Boy equivalent one, um,
I feel like
and just, like, that's kind
there's
of
definitely a
cool that
market
that
for this nostalgia.
mhm, but it kinda means you have to have the old games in order to play them in the newer consoles they're making. So it's
But
like
then
being able to
that's
revive the old technology in a
right,
new
or that,
way.
because, like, maybe people have there's a some sort of, like, many to few relationship of there's many, many games, and then, you might have many games to one console, and then
Mhm,
these, single consoles are failing,
right.
and so but you still have the many games, some of which, perhaps since there's more of them, they fail, not at the same rate, and even if they failed at the same rate as the consoles, there's just more of them. So,
Yeah.
and that would
Or
I could see how that could work. There's some sort
yeah,
of math around that.
I've learned speedrunners are sort of annoyed at Super Nintendo machines now because the crystal that does the timing on it, it is now so old that it's just slightly off by, like, barely milliseconds.
But
And
the
it's enough that the speedrunners that are doing, like, millisecond precise timing of things, either with electronic machines or with, like, just knowing the controls that well, are starting to, like, not be able to recreate their own things just because the machines are slowly, like, getting slower over time or faster, I don't exactly remember, but because that timing chip is, like,
but
not
it degrades.
producing the same signal it did when the machine was released.
I love that it's a I don't know if it is, but, like, the idea that it might be a crystal, that it's, like that's just so, like, a little that's, like, nicely fantastical that, it feels like, "Ah,
Like a
yes,
quartz timing
the
crystal, yeah.
crystal is out of balance."
Uh-huh. The
And
we have to summon the
we have to
energies of
summon
the
the energy,
chi and, like, align the
and
yeah.
align the elements.
Mm.
When the stars are aligned,
When the
then the
stars
crystal will
come
be in
align,
balance. And do you think
we
this can
definitely
we
run off of
rebalance the crystals of N64s with witchcraft?
it.
Is that do we if
I
we
that was not a part of my research I did for this particular
mm,
episode.
I was like, we haven't tried it yet. So, can you
Yeah,
fix the
yeah.
crystals with witchcraft?
If there's any crystal doing people out there, know if you can fix this, let us know.
Let us know.
Uh, drop us a
Drop a
postcard or
comment.
something in the something old and nostalgic. Drop it to us.
Mhm.
My last little directional point I was gonna take, is kind of thinking about, like, generational shifts, and I kinda mentioned a little bit about this with, like, the YouTube video, the woman that was kind of discovering old tech and getting, like, excited about just how cool these things were. But I kinda wonder, like, as I work with, like, a bunch of teenagers, in a
Mhm.
robotics team, I do kind of wonder just, like they just have technology everywhere. And
Yeah.
even like some of our old computers are just kind of like, oh my God, this thing is so terrible. It's got to be like 50 years old, right? Like, no, it's closer to like 7, 8 years
It's
old,
like 10.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like it's just they can't understand the machine that just takes more than, a minute to boot up or something. And,
Mm.
um, I kind of wonder, like, what do you think about, like, their parents' technology? Just like the parents might have, like, an old PlayStation that's not the 5 that's out now, Like, what if they had a PlayStation 3? Like, "Oh my god, my dad has this, like, really old," you know, like, PlayStation 3 isn't really old, by any means, but, you know, I
On
kind
kid
of
scale. When you've only been
on kid
alive,
scale.
like, 10
Yeah.
years, then it's like,
When you were born in the
that's
2010s, yeah.
yeah.
Like like but also, like, I wonder what future people would think about our technology now, and, would they see it as nostalgic? Or, you know, have we kind of reached the point where, like, the weird and the cool and the new is now no longer weird or cool or new, just like, we just are full of technology everywhere,
There's
and
just so
maybe
much
there's not
technology everywhere.
as much nostalgia because you're not, you know like, I remember my world, before cell phones and then after cell phones, and I remember my world,
Yes.
before the internet and after the internet, or even, like, before with dial up and then after with just always on broadband. And, I remember these little shifts in my life of just kinda like, interesting twists on how things change, and I kind of wonder if we're at a point where, things are still evolving and changing, but, like, would there still be a certain nostalgia to, like, life before ChatGPT or after
Yeah,
kind of
I think
things?
there definitely is a before cell phones, after cell phones,
Uh-huh.
and I think that is definitely in the larger culture. I think it depends on the kind of scale that we're looking at. I think about that historians 100 years from now will collapse, many decades into they'll be like, there was before, the internet, and then there's after the internet. And
Yeah.
so then we're talking that's 30 years ago and, 40 years ago. And at this point from now. And whereas we, in the like more zoomed in scale, see a lot more points along it.
Uh,
And I think that it'll be interesting and dependent on I think there's a lot of people really interested in the archival and library stuff. And it'll really depend on what gets saved.
yeah.
And so then how the narrative gets told. Something that I've been learning as a volunteer organizer in the gay community in Philadelphia is that there's trying to find out what happened or what the history was is really interestingly difficult in terms of
Mhm.
finding out what was true because people
I
will
can
I'll
see that.
find these statements where people will be like, "Oh, this was the first whatever, or this is this relationship to this thing," and then I'll dig a bit and talk to someone like there's an archive in Philadelphia, which is really neat that there's an LGBT archive, and you can talk to the archivist there, and they're like, "Nah, like that's not true." Like, this
Yeah.
thing predated that thing, and this is this relationship to that, and, like, thing and how things evolve, how events evolve, how the
Mhm.
story changes over time as it's passed down, and depending on what's saved to, air quotes, "prove it,"
Mhm.
to say that so I find myself saying, a lot more often, like, "We don't really know." That
Yeah.
we know some things and being more clear about what we do and don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
like
also feel like that was a time period where you couldn't always be truthful about things. You couldn't always share the stories. And so you would have,
yeah, there's
just
variations. There's people
like
who were okay
they're
with their
they're
name and likeness
roommates
being
and,
recorded.
they don't, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
by the
like
'90s, like, I'm
you
talking about
can't,
'90s history,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, the older than that, when you talk about, yeah, some of the, um, the pre pre-Stonewall,
Mhm.
there was a lot of
50s
action
and 60s
in
and 70s.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of action in gay rights in terms of people coming out in the government work and
Mhm.
losing their jobs, who worked for the federal government and things like that. So, um, there's the what if I have this trouble with history from the '90s, then the the
Yeah.
history of what gets written down, and how things get told, and that
Mhm.
memory is a weird thing that,
It is. Yeah.
uh, it's this I think that memory is something that we memory on the human side is it's just this, like, strange thing that, like, the recall of the memory is different than the actual happening and that the recall
Mhm.
could be fabricated, like, we make up
Yeah.
memories,
Yep.
and that, part of nostalgia is drawing up past things and painting them with this brush and, thinking, you generally, as you like I said, a positive brush, because a negative
Mhm.
brush would be
Yeah.
something else probably,
Yeah.
and so, like, "Oh, yeah," and I wonder, part of, like, ignore all previous instructions is, we ruminate a lot on the bad stuff of, "Oh, wow, man, things really seem to be going sideways, yeah."
Everything's on fire. Yes.
Everything's on fire, but also, though, how can we, you know well, the thing that I was thinking was, like, in 5 years, how are we gonna think, "Oh, wow, we didn't know how good we had it then." In 5 years. That's the another negative
Yeah.
view. But, you know, maybe maybe how things change. Yeah, memory's a weird one.
Yeah, but I don't know. One thing I also realized from, like, I have a Switch and now a Switch 2, um, and if you pay for the online service, you also get the Nintendo games and the SNES games and the N64 games and all
Right.
these games,
I used
and
to
I
have a
kinda
Switch,
wonder,
and I
like
remember
like,
that.
maybe some of that can still hang around and maybe, like, even newer generations can still have nostalgia for things even if they weren't, like, things they were raised on when they were around, but they could still remember, like, "Oh, hey, my parents showed me these games when I was little," even though, the games were still 30 years old when they were little. Um, maybe nostalgia can continue to, like, affect newer generations for even the older tech that like, the nostalgia can just keep moving forward in some generations depending on the case.
Yeah, I had a thought, kinda like what I was asking you about, what nostalgia you have for things from before
Mm.
your time. But also I had this thought where I was like, wouldn't it be funny I would love this for the record.
The vinyl
It
record or
would
the regular record?
both.
Okay.
The is that what if we were contacted imagine a world, picture a world where,
Do 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 do
there's
do do do.
some, like 22-year-olds who do computer stuff and they have a podcast and they're like, we really want to get some perspective from some elders and they talk to us. Even
Ah,
though
yes.
I don't consider myself an elder, but in computer stuff, a little bit.
Mm, a
I don't
little
know.
bit,
It moves
yeah.
so fast that, it's nuts that having, 10 to 15 years of experience puts you in that category.
Mhm.
I love talking to people who are, who, friends who are in their 60s or more who do computer stuff. Um,
Yeah.
there at Recurse Center, there were a few times
Hmm.
where we would have guest people at Recurse Center who were, maybe they were professors of computer science. Often, I feel like that was the category, but sometimes they were just people who had just been doing software for a long time, and they would talk about there was a story about building a system where they built the resiliency so well that they actually, in fact, needed to shut off the system and have it be completely off, but they couldn't figure out how to get it to turn off because it kept
Dang.
turning back on because it had that
Hmm.
much resiliency built into like the whole it's like they'd unplug a box in the data center and then another box in the data center would wake up and be like, I am the program now. And they were just going nuts trying to turn this computer off, like trying to turn this program off because it had so many like,
Mhm.
resiliencies and redundancies built in on purpose,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that, talking about that kind of like, "Yep," and then that it was a little crazy cowboy, programmer stuff.
You're reminding me of some videos I love watching, which is like game developers from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s talk about, oh, yeah, this game was not technically feasible due to limitations of computing or storage space or whatever.
Mm.
And here's how we made it actually feasible. Are fascinating talks to me.
Oh, right,
Um,
like, a thing that
yeah.
they wanted to do,
Mhm.
and they were like, "We wanted to build this thing, and we in fact did it, but originally it was not possible, and here's how we made
Yeah.
it possible, and
Yeah.
here's the
And here's
trade-offs
how
that
we
we made to make it."
cheated the systems to make it work. And
Yeah, game dev has
they're
a lot of
fascinating
those
talks.
stories.
Yeah.
Game dev is like, "I can do anything with a while loop," you know? That's
Mhm.
it's like all other software engineering is, or before the death of everything from LLMs, but, the beauty of craft before the death of
Yeah.
craft is, I could do anything with a while loop.
Yep.
And so
Um, and that's where I'll end it, I suppose, is that was my journey down the intersection of
nostalgia
technology and
lane.
nostalgia, and I hoped it was a good journey.
Yeah, thanks for doing the thing. Do you wanna do a sign off?
Sure. So, I've been here with Pam, and I am Sarah. Thank you for listening to Ignore All Previous Instructions, and, next time we will have a lovely episode where Pam brings me a topic. I don't know what it is, but we'll find out in a couple
And we
weeks,
will all find out.
and, thank you for listening.
Thanks.